And you're sleek as a thoroughbred.
Your seats are a feathered bed
To turn everybody's head today.
Greetings from Castle Goring, from Nikki, Aurora, and from me. Before we plunge in with the really very interesting news that I have received from the bongo drums, I am going to share with you a teensy-weensy little pleasure that I had on Sunday afternoon, because I was a guest of the rather gorgeous widow of Stanley Mann, the famous Bentley racing driver and Bentley expert, at the Concours of Elegance at Hampton Court Palace. And I'm going to do a few photographs, and I'm going to do a few clips, and I will hold this up so you can see it. Now, to those of you who know about the Concours of Elegance, you will know that Prince Michael is the patron, and the vice patron is the master of the household, Sir Tony Johnston Burt. And since what's coming afterwards is information that I have received from bongo drums that clearly have something to do with the royals, I hasten to add that I would not be mentioning this if Prince Michael or Sir Tony or anybody associated closely with them were beating those bongo drums to me. Okay, so having said that, I will share a little clip of Karen Mann and one or two other people, names all put in, including some nice pictures of Prince Michael and Princess Michael in the fabled Bentley. That, I mean, it's incredible. The Bentley was discovered with a goat living in it. But I'm going to put a little clip of Karen giving some of the background of the car and really of the racing team, and how her husband became effectively the world's leading expert on the restoration of Bentleys. So without further ado, I will say, look, enjoy, and then I will see you in a very short while.
When my husband died, I took over the business for some years. That was in 2016. But he was an absolute leading world vintage Bentley expert. He was amazing and a very big character, known to all. And so vicariously, I learned something about the business. We went on all the events, but he was the knowledgeable one. And when I took over, I had promised him that I would try and do as many events still as possible. And then after a while, I had to give up the business side of it because of my own work and what have you. But I still do as many events that I can do. So he found that car, and there's a photograph of it before the restoration. He used to restore cars, he raced them, and there's a photograph of it before the restoration. So it was an amazing restoration. And when he found it, there was a goat living in it, which was quite incredible. Anyway, it has raced in all the leading British racetracks. It's also done the Nürburgring Ring, where it did a 24-hour race. It's raced at Goodwood, Silverstone, Schlossstick, Brooklands. There was also a race actually called the Elephant Race that it did. That was at Nürburg, and that was a 2-driver, 2-hour race. So vintage Bentleys have always been drivers' cars. They were at Le Mans, where they won in 1924, 1927, 1928 and 1930. And they were amongst the most famous in motoring history. And the exploits of the drivers, they were the infamous Bentley boys who partied as hard as they drove, inspired a loyal following. And my husband Stanley started a club called Benjafields, and they tried to emulate that feeling of the Bentley boys, and they were called Benjafields. During the war years, the cars were not worth very much, just shillings, and in some cases. And after the war, there was a band of enthusiasts who decided to return them back to their former glory. And it was infectious. If an owner got a car running the way, he was willing to pass on his knowledge to fellow enthusiasts. Many were bought as spares. A gearbox was taken from one and put into another one, a set of wheels from another, and so on. And there was this amazing camaraderie. And still, when my husband died, they all arrived. 175 vintage Bentley owners came to the funeral with their Bentleys. It was amazing. So the cars were produced in the Bentley Motors produced 3,024 chassis between 1921 and 1931. They cost an average 2.5 times the price of a 3-bedroom house, which was within walking distance of the Cricklewood factory where they were built. And they sold one every day for 10 years. The most famous Bentley of all times was known as Mother Gun. And we had Mother Gun for a time, actually, but it's now in a museum. And it nearly met its fate at Le Mans in a spectacular accident in 1927, but it went on to win in 1928, when Bentley enthusiast and engineer, the late John Hunt, saved this car from meeting its fate, and he restored it and back into the style, and as a tribute to the old Mother Gun.
Bye-bye. Neither, they're aviation.
No.
One of them is Jaeger, to be fair, but they're modern ones. Or more,
Oh.
They're not modern, but they're not as new.
Okay, but they're not chercher la courage, which would be
They'll be alright.
Now that we have got that little bit of pleasure out of the way, and I have to say it was rather fun being in the closing proceedings and driving around Hampton Court Palace, etc. And one or two people recognizing me and shouting out, "Hi, Lady C," was very sweet as well. But I don't think any of that has been captured. So I hope you enjoyed it. And now we plunge in with the bongo drums. And I am going to introduce this by starting with a question from Anne Illing. Hello, Lady C and your adorable fur babies. Woof woof. It is being reported by the MSM that Harry has had enough of his Californian idyll and wants to make amends and return to the bosom of his family. Please tell me that this is never going to happen. I just worry that King Charles will forgive him and welcome him back with open arms. I believe that should this happen, it will be the death knell of our royal family. It would also be the death knell of, the king's relationship with his eldest son. I don't think it would help the marriage very much either. The marriage of the king and the queen. Because although she's very phlegmatic and she's very accommodating and likes to go along with the least said, soonest mended, let's not make a fuss. She, I am reliably informed, was absolutely gobsmacked the way Harry attacked her in his book Spare, which, remember, next month is coming out in paperback. Also, the king has regarded Camilla as a non-negotiable part of his life. Harry has negotiated his way out of the central fold. Harry has had enough of his Californian idyll and wants to make amends and return to the bosom of his family. Don't believe a word of it, my dear. The first thing is whether he has had enough of his Californian idyll and his Californian totty is not the issue. The issue is that he wants to make amends. Harry, make amends. Now, where is... Oh, here we go. There's the head of the pig. Pigs flying everywhere. Absolute pigs flying everywhere. The whole thing is a very cynical exercise. Now, has Harry made amends? Has Harry said, oh, you know, Meghan and I never ever accused my father and my sister-in-law of being racists? Has he said that? I haven't heard it, have you? That's the first thing. The second thing is, I have been speaking to people and I have made notes. Now, I'm going to interweave the notes I have made with my own personal comments. First of all, this latest scenario is, as it has been described to me, a very cynical exercise that is a massive PR con. Harry and Meghan and their people have planted these latest stories about him wanting to come back and about mending fences and good. It's quote unquote all a con, confidence trickster stuff. They know they can't come back, even if they wanted to come back. And there is a great deal of doubt as to whether Meghan would ever want to come back. Of course, Meghan is somebody who has found it very easy in the past to change her positions, her beliefs, her feelings, her sentiments. She discards one identity when it is convenient, the way a snake sheds its skin, and reveals another. So, if this woman who worships at the altar of Mammon found it in her interest to come back to the United Kingdom and to live in the United Kingdom. Now, I don't know that if you can imagine that happening. I have a difficulty imagining it happening. But I know that desperation makes desperados do desperate things. And somebody who is as desperate for attention and all the worldly ambitions that she has had and has sought to have satisfied, I think, having sold everybody else down the river, including herself, I see no reason why she wouldn't do it again. I'm not saying she would, but I certainly am not of the school of thought that she wouldn't flip if it suited her to flip. But until it suits her to flip, do you see her flipping? I don't. And the people I have spoken to certainly do not believe that she intends to be flipping or that she intends to be coming back here. Not on her own and not with those children. Not having those children spending extended periods of time or living here. Nobody sees that as a possibility. Of course, nobody's a fortune teller, so we really don't know what the future holds. I qualified by making that point. But I am told they know they can't come back. I'm quoting now. They know they're not wanted. Harry, according to the narrative, has been contacting his old friends, some of whom have been receptive, others of whom have not been. The latest stories do not indicate that those who have not been, but I understand that they are in the vast majority compared to those who have been, and those who have been somewhat accommodating are a dearth as opposed to anything else. And that aspect of his conduct is nothing new. They're presenting it as if it's new. To those of you who have been following this channel for any length of time, you will know that I said some time ago that Harry had been contacting his old friends, trying to pick up back his old relationships, and that many a door had been slammed in his face. So, but of course, you have the Mail and various publications acting as if this is all new stuff when it's not. Practically everyone of any note or merit, with the exception of Charlie van Straubenzi, sorry, I'm tripping over the word. Practically everybody of any note or merit who has severed relations with Harry has not picked up back the relationship with Harry. Charlie van Straubenzi, I am informed, is one of the few people who has consistently been open doors with Harry. And that is to his credit, and nobody holds it against him. But most of the others made their choice years ago, because most of the people with whom Harry would like to pick up back his relationship with, they long ago chose right over wrong, William over Harry, Catherine over the scrubber. Oh, sorry, Meghan. I am told that there is absolute white rage in certain quarters over this latest foray and the way it is being presented, because the view is that Harry and Meghan and their people have launched what is effectively a cynical and manipulative fusillade against William, Catherine, the King, and the Queen, knowing that Harry cannot be embraced by them, and that when he is not embraced by them, there is going to be the narrative following that, the royal family have been so harsh and unforgiving. I am told that they have perceived that they will be blamed for the failure to embrace what is effectively their reputational assassin, and that they bitterly resent this latest gaslighting of the public and gaslighting of effectively everybody who is an onlooker to what is going on. Because there is no way that this latest stunt can result in Harry being forgiven, Harry coming back into the fold, Harry picking up back his royal way of life, Harry being half in and half out, which is also what they are laying the ground for. Harry will do some modest royal duties, cutting ribbons. Harry's going to do no royal duties. He's not even going to cut the crap, much less a ribbon. So let's be clear about that one. You know, I'm told, and I'm going to quote, there are dimensions to this which the public seem unaware of. The Spencers, I was told, hate Camilla and would love to see her undermined. The Spencers have good media links. Charles Spencer is a journalist. He knows journalists, and he even has a podcast. The Spencers and Harry and Meghan are believed to have jointly been shaping this narrative, and they have a long reach where it is concerned. No one has asked so far who is behind the stories that Charles wants Andrew out of Royal Lodge so that Camilla can have it as her dower house. Now, right there, you have a whole host of subtexts. Why the urgency? This goes right to the heart of the king's longevity. Do you see, when you begin to unpick all that's going on, the treachery that is behind it. I'm told, why would Camilla even want Royal Lodge as her dower house? She already has her own house, which she's very happy at. It certainly doesn't suit Charles or Camilla or Andrew or any of the other Yorks to have stories of that nature floating around. Yet there have been concerted attempts to push the narrative of kicking Andrew out. And the cover story was that William desired it for himself, and he actually had to go to the trouble of denying that he wanted it at all. All of this, I'm assured, is to make Charles and Camilla look bad, and also to mischievously bring up for public debate the possibility that the king's stay on this earth might be shorter than some people suppose it is. This is all deeply nasty and manipulative stuff, which only ace propagandists along the lines of Joseph Goebbels and I won't even bother to say who else, but people who know all about flying high would come up with. I'm also told that the mischief-making the Spencer side has been getting up to behind the scenes to make the royals uncomfortable also has the purpose of diverting attention away from Charles Spencer's forthcoming and possibly very messy divorce. I understand that his wife is anything but accommodating and is quite determined to see that she is not shoved out with quite the discourtesy and the disrespect that the previous wives were shoved out with, and that she is holding her ground very firmly. And so this is also diversionary, evidently. And Charles Spencer didn't only shove out rather indecorously wives, he also shoved out fiancées, in quotes, such as Bianca Elliot, Lady Elliot, who is the widow of the grandson of a friend of mine, Jacqueline Lady Colin, who was at my Ascot picnic every year for about 30 years, with the exception of when she had her 100th birthday, and she spent it with the Queen on Ladies' Day instead at the Royal Box. So, I'm going to quote all the participants in this latest Harry and Meghan narrative, from the Spencers through the royals to the press, know that Harry and Meghan know that none of what is being mooted is possible. None of it is true. None of it can come to fruition. And the royals and their advisors are pretty peed off that even respected journalists like Angus Wilson have hopped onto the bandwagon and gone along with the false narrative of Pollyanna, with everything being all right and everybody being happy at the end of the day, when everybody knows that's not going to happen. As for Justin Welby and Richard Charters, who, it has to be said, has to a large extent been kept out of this, in the more median and lower ranges of the press, but he has been alluded to as well. He's the former Bishop of London, to those of you who don't know who he is. He's a friend of the King, and he's now a life pair. And Justin Welby, of course, is the Archbishop of Canterbury. Their names are being bandied about, and I'm told that neither of them has breathed a word publicly about anybody embracing the Iscariots. And I was proudly told that that's my word that a lot of people are now using. And I was delighted to hear it. And that it allows them to present themselves as innocents instead of the traitors they are. Well, Harry and Meghan, I'm awfully sorry, are expecting to be embraced. Where's the apology? Where is the acknowledgement of the damage they've done? Also, not only to the King, the Queen, the Prince and Princess of Wales, what about to the British people? What about to the people of the Commonwealth? Where's the apology? Where's the acknowledgement? It doesn't exist. This whole scenario is so bizarre and irresponsible and outlandish. It's like living in an alternative universe where that which is crazy is accepted as mundane and ordinary, and that which is mundane and ordinary is just discounted as if it's being bizarre. But there are reasons for it. Harry and Meghan need the money. Putting his inheritance aside, they need the money. The marriage, I am told, is very rocky, and nothing on that front is assured. Nothing Harry and Meghan have done has worked out. They've lost all their prestige, I was told. I don't think they've lost all with everybody, but they've lost all with anybody of consequence. They haven't lost it with rabid alternative types. Let's leave it at that without being pejorative. They have lost their earning power along with their prestige. Nothing has worked out the way they wanted it to. Spotify folded. Netflix is in huge danger of, if not collapsing totally, of being wound down into something that will be financially insignificant, whether it appears to be or not. And obviously, Netflix is going to present it, if they don't axe them totally, as if it is hugely prestigious. But I am told by people in Hollywood who know what's going on that what Netflix would have paid $100 for 3 years ago, they'll pay 50 cents for now if Harry and Meghan are lucky. And the only reason why they'll do it is to try to retrieve their investment. Recoup was the word I was told. Recoup their investment. Sorry, not retrieve. Recoup. And to turn what has effectively been a failure into a success. So it's also saving Ted Sarandis's posterior and reputation. But a Royal American Riviera orchard Oh dear, let's not even go there. And as for their trips, the girl's fur is bothering me. All those trips they've been making. And their attempts to make further trips. And the state of their marriage. And the state of their relationship. And the state of his well-being. Let's not forget about that one. He has, and I've said it before, I was told he was approaching a crossroads. And the fact that he is approaching a crossroads doesn't necessarily mean that he isn't going to be playing her game because he has become an operator like her, which is very sad. But also, they have been having huge staffing problems. I am told they lose staff the way a hemophiliac loses blood after being gashed by a Stanley knife. The result of all of this is that each of them is desperate in their different ways and for different reasons. I'm not going to go into the area of whether the marriage will last, whether it won't, whether it's going to collapse underneath the weight of the fecal matter that they have been shooting in all directions. And notice I said all directions. All. But Meghan is an operator. Harry is also now an operator. And I'm going to quote now. Harry knows and Meghan knows he needs to do something while his father is alive. They've heard the rumours that his father might not have as long a lifespan as the optimists hope. They're taking full advantage of the precariousness of the situation. Meghan believes in exploiting all situations to her advantage, and Harry has adopted her modus operandi. The problem is, behind the scenes, neither his father nor his stepmother has proven to be quite the pushover he hoped and she optimistically expected them to be. Because Meghan, of course, knows that, well, I'm such a mover and a shaker when I order that little king and that little queen have just got to do what I want. Hasn't quite worked out like that. I gather that the king and the queen's resistance has caused Harry and Meghan great frustration. They are really desperate people in a desperate situation, and they are trying every game in the playbook, is the way it was presented to me as. Harry has tried to play Pa in ways that haven't worked and is now trying to play him in other ways. What ways? Well, 1 minute he's been hysterical, the next demanding, the next insistent, the next supposedly concerned, all in the space of 5 minutes. Also, everyone in palace circles is aware that Meghan believes there's a gap in the market with Catherine being ill. I'm reliably informed that Meghan is an eternal optimist who hopes that Catherine will vacate the world stage, and that will leave Meghan with the spotlight to step into. She doesn't seem to understand that just because she'd like Catherine to be off the world stage doesn't mean she's going to be, that Catherine is going to be off it. And even if Catherine were off it, does Meghan seriously think, and she evidently does, that she would be able to supplant Catherine? She's evidently expressed the view that if Kate doesn't make it, I can fill the gap. And in their crazy way, they even seem to think they can perform as royals while being located in the US, as if royal attendance isn't linked to the causes the royals support, but is a matter of filling the pages of Newsweek with photos of Meghan. Oh, look at me. Don't you just love my booby-woobies? And don't you just love the cutout beneath? And notice how white it is? Doesn't match my face. But that's on purpose, so you know that I'm not really a proud, confident woman of colour. I'm a proud, confident white woman with a little dash of Tabasco. Spice makes it nice. There are no royal duties that are possible. Harry is not going to be able to come over here and cut ribbons. As I was told, the only thing he's going to be able to cut is the crap. And that, I'm sure, he's not going to be cutting. Harry cannot be half in, half out, nor can Meghan. This is the latest kite being flown, the latest variation on the half in, half out scenario. And they are very cynically and manipulatively using Catherine and the king's illnesses, or as she is alleged to have put it, and I'm being careful how I put this, the gap in the market. Well, there will be no official engagements of any nature that Harry will perform with or without Meghan. And definitely as long as they're married, there is no possibility. And also, the press going on and on about the fact that if Harry buys a place in the UK, that means that he can then fill the role of Councillor of State again. No, he is not going to be allowed to fill it. Princess Anne and Prince Edward have been chosen. Harry can lodge himself like a bad meal in the middle of the Mall. He's not going to be called upon to perform as a Councillor of State. I have been informed. So I hope that covers the whole sorry saga, because there's an awful lot of anger and outrage that, because people understand what's behind this. It is setting up the royals for failure, while Harry and Meghan will, having set them up for failure, Harry and Meghan will emerge supreme. It's not going to happen. It's the latest cack-handed attempt by that pushy little manipulator and the dunderhead to whom she's married. So, there we go. Margaret Hall says, but if he comes back to this country, His IPP status will be reinstated. He'll hot-foot it back to Montecito together with IPP. No, he won't. It won't be restored. Harry has tried every trick in the book and is continuing to try every trick in the book. It's not going to be restored. Let him continue to sue. Maybe Megsy is going to work her magic on the judge. And maybe the judge is going to fall for her wiles the way other people have. But short of that, I'm sorry, it's just not going to wash. Just because Harry has a property here, or because he says he's coming back here. Can you imagine? He's back here for 3 to 4 to even 2 weeks at a time. He's going to be cutting ribbons. Then that's the way his side is saying it's going to start. Then he's going to be cutting everything else. Slashing left, right, and centre. It's not happening. Colette Hefferon says, so apparently Harry left a card and 3 presents for Prince William and Princess Catherine's children after the funeral of his uncle. It seems he hasn't caught on that his nieces and nephews, it's one niece actually, sorry, not 2 nieces, it's not nieces, it's 1 niece, and nephews would be well aware of his shenanigans and wouldn't want to be anywhere near him after what he has done and continues to do to their parents. He's such a slime, trying to sabotage and to use kids to blackmail the parents into speaking to him. It is clear to the world Prince William doesn't want him in his life, and rightfully so, but he's trying to force it. It's all vile after what they've done. What with they did to the Beckhams, etc. Then she thinks by wearing Victoria's blouse and sweating all over it, she can make up with the Beckhams, showing they feel they can treat people horribly. Then when the duo need these people again, that they will just forget, proving that they're actually insane, in my opinion. Yet, Colette Hefferon, that about sums it up. Meghan and Harry are totally off their conduct. Irresponsible, out of touch with reality. Opportunists who think they can dump all over you and then just pick you up back. Meghan has done it repeatedly over the decades with people, and she was allowed to get away with it. Harry used to actually be more, shall we say, repentant than he now is. The technique is not going to work. And leaving presents, well, you know, Mickey and Aurora often leave presents for me, especially if I don't take them out. Well, I shouldn't say often, because it's not often, but very occasionally they will leave a present for me. It is an unwanted present. It's usually after they haven't been taken out when they should have been taken out. And Harry has obviously done the same thing, if indeed he did leave those presents. The question is, who told whom that he left any presents? Because you can guarantee Prince William hasn't told anybody. I cannot guarantee that at least one of the Spencers, and I know which one I would opt for, and I would only opt for one. I certainly don't think Jane would ever say anything. And I would find it difficult to imagine Sarah saying anything. But it is possible that leaks of this nature, whether true or false, would come from Harry, not even the Spencers. But irrespective of whether it came from Harry or the Spencers, you can depend on it, it didn't come from the royal family. And this again is another plant to make William look bad and to somehow be able to spin it that William is intransigent and Harry should be forgiven, and that Harry is the good guy doing everything to make everything right. No, Harry and Meghan are the ones who made everything wrong. And using the children in this way would, maybe in terms of the PR battle with the oiks that believe Harry and Meghan are wonderful people, it might wash with them, but it's not going to wash with anybody else. The whole thing is just a study in insanity, as you put it. Insanity. It's the vernacular meaning of insanity. All absolutely out to lunchtime. Tanya Fabregas says, hello, our very dear Lady C. Thank you. Hello to you too. Do you think that Meghan would have been as popular as Diana was had the internet not been available? I often think she would have been. Thank God for the internet. That is a very interesting question. It is a really interesting question. And it is also a wonderful observation which had never occurred to me. Well, Diana's popularity started to tank when I was one of the people who got involved. And remember, I'm the person who unmasked Diana. Because until I wrote Diana Hurt, what was it called? Diana in Private, The Princess Nobody Knows. So long ago. I'm sorry, I forgot. That was really the book that unmasked Diana. But there were one or two hints before that Diana wasn't perfect. So even without the internet, I was approached by people to write and ultimately wrote Meghan and Harry, the real story. And I'm the one whose book kicked off all of the revelations about Meghan and Harry. But by then, of course, and they knew the book was coming out, incidentally, before they jumped ship to Canada and then to the United States. They knew the book was coming out. Because remember, and this is a connection I've literally just made, that I was phoned up in the January after one of the broadcasters had cast an interview with Thomas Markle about Meghan's supposed feelings and claims about her father. This was before Harry and Meghan had jumped ship. I can't remember now, it's so long ago, whether they had already, I think they had announced, or they were very shortly going to announce. I don't remember whether they'd announced that they were going to Canada or not, but it was for a trial period. But they had known that my book was in the offing before they made up their minds to jump ship. So I'm not saying that my book had anything to do with it, but to answer your question and thinking aloud, because I've actually never confronted the subject from this angle before, that no, I think they would still have been exposed, but the exposure would have been far less than it was. Certainly, without the internet, people like me would never have had cause to become aware of the anomalies of her pregnancy with Archie, the way we then became aware of it. Because even after I had been told by reputable journalists what they had witnessed at Birkenhead, I, as you can see, I'm sort of in another world thinking this through, but I'm going to do it spontaneously. I think it at least shows the thought process in motion. It's the internet that has gilded the lily. But without the internet, I think ultimately they would have got away with some, but not everything. So I don't think she would have been as popular as Diana, because she was too abusive towards the staff, according to them. And it was only a matter of time before her wild inconsistency was exposed by her own actions and her own idle comments. Diana was very careful to not expose herself publicly. Meghan has been very careless about exposing herself publicly. Meghan is so arrogant and so out of touch in a way that Diana wasn't, that Meghan truly believes that nobody can add up 2 and 2 and discover that it's 4. That degree of arrogance is impertinence, and Meghan has it in spades. Stephen Magnus says, Meghan's latest puff piece, Meghan's investment portfolio, it isn't 5 to 10, it's only 2. Investors' website with details of Meghan's investments. 14th December 2020. Clever Blends LLC. 28th August 2024. Sesta Collective LLC. These are her only angel, in quotes, investments. Do you think I should offer her a loan? Would you like to offer her a loan? Because clearly she's not as well off as she'd like everybody to believe. Thank you very much, Stephen Magnus, for that little bit of information. No wonder they're so desperate. Ooghat says, it is indeed extremely dreary that so many do not understand that the king cannot stop Harry and his unsuitable wife's antics. They are independent of the royal family and free to say and do as they wish. Like it or not, neither do many understand that the removal of titles is extremely complex, whether it be the hereditary titles or the gifted titles. None of these issues are straightforward. Most perplexing of all is this absurd belief that the king is weak, as if those that comment on social media are party to more information about the situation than the king, the senior royals, and the senior courtiers. Everyone is an expert, even if their understanding of the British monarchy and constitution is non existent. Our monarchy is neither the crown nor a Disney film where the king or queen rules over the kingdom and issues edicts. That's right. That's absolutely right. And I've read it out because it summarizes the whole thing in the most succinct way. And it summarizes what I have been trying to say for some time. And on that note, I am going to say thank you very much for listening. I hope this has been of some interest to you. If it has, please keep the questions and comments coming in so I will know what you would like us to be speaking about. Thank you so much for listening. God bless. And if you have truly enjoyed this, would you care to like, share, subscribe, press the notification bell, and take good care. Bye-bye.